Welcome back to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're honored to have with us as our next guest, a living legend. We are joined by David Porter. He is the Hall of Fame songwriter, singer, philanthropist, entrepreneur, record producer, over 1,700 credits to his name. And he's also the founder of the Consortium MMT. And we'll dive into what that means here in just a second. But let's start out. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Jeremy. So happy to be with you.
So you have so much rich legacy, and I love that even the way you phrase what you're doing, you're taking the mentorship with the legends of today to create the legends of tomorrow. And so give us a little bit, though, before we dive into the Consortium MMT, give us a little bit of your story, because you are a native Memphian. And so when you talk about caring for this community, it runs through your blood. So give us a little bit of your personal story.
Well, as a high school kid, I was working at a grocery store across the street from a place called SoulRight Records. And it was a recording company there that had just moved into a transitional community in the early 60s there. And so I went across the street asking what was going on there, and they were recording country music. They had two artists, artists by the name of Charlie Hines and Nick Charles out of St. Louis. And so they said, well, we record country and we record. I said, well, I sing, so well, we record country. So I said, well, do you mind if I just stop by and come over and just to look? I said, well, we don't allow people in the studio. Well, they had a record shop right up front. And so I went there, and the lady by the name of Estelle Axton, who was the sister of Jim Stewart, was the lady who was running that shop. And so I would work at the store. I was just getting ready to graduate from high school. I'd work at the store and I'd come over there, and she was kind enough to talk to me. So I was able to convince her to allow me to convince Jim to give me an audition, even though he was doing country. So he gave me an audition there. And the rest is history. I ended up becoming the first staff songwriter for Stax Records, helped them make the transition from country into R&B music, and then try to find a value for me. And they recorded a demo on me to see how strong a singer I was, and they were not impressed. I quite honestly, I froze. I was singing out of tune and all kinds of things. The excitement and the chance of that just took me to another kind of space. But I was able to convince them to allow me to come in as a songwriter. I told them I could write. So they said, well, look, we give you 6 months to show what you can do. And in 6 months, the rest is history. I bought Booker T. Jones, who later became Booker T and the MGs. I bought him to play on my demo. I bought William Bell, who later became William Bell, the artist, the same background. I brought Andrew Love, who later became the Memphis Horns, to play horns on my demo. So I'd already brought a considerable amount of talent to him, and it was compelling kind of situation for Jim because he gravitated to each of those, then gave me the opportunity to stay long, and the rest is history. I was fortunate enough to become a songwriter, producer of a little bit of note with Stax Records, and it was just an unbelievable opportunity with Isaac Hayes and I becoming a songwriting team of the ilk of Holland, Dozier Holland, and Motown, who were motivators for us because of all the success they were having. And then through that, the success became unbelievable for me. And I wanted to, at this stage of my life, after being so fortunate, having gotten the support from the community, support from people, and certainly given the chance of a new fledgling label, I wanted to be sure that I gave something back. So I'm at a stage in my life, 79 years old, and I wanted to be sure that I left something meaningful. So in 2012, I started the Consortium MMT, which is a mentoring program for aspiring young songwriters, record producers, and recording artists. And I was able to convince some friends of mine, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind & Fire, Maurice White, when he was Philip Bailey, Bobby Womack, the OJs, Valerie Simpson, the songwriter, Jimmy Jam, the producer, and just about 50 or 60 others to film videos talking about the context that I was going to give to these young people. And I've used that context along with a process to give mentorship to hundreds of young folk out of Memphis.
And I think that's the power, is just like you kind of shared in your story. It's the experiences, it's the relationships, it's now the mentorship. And, you know, just like any industry, you have to learn your craft, and there's an art form to that to be able to teach. But just as powerful, it's the business know-how and the relationships. And so you've been there, you've done it, you know how to get to the top of the mountain, and now it's your chance to share for the youth of today to be able to help them on their way as well. And when you talk about just the power, like you said, of what you were able to accomplish, Rolling Stone listed you as one of the 100 greatest songwriters of all time. And so that sort of power of knowing your craft, but also too knowing the industry, is something that you really can't put a price tag on in terms of what it means for our community. So dive into the Consortium MMT, and MMT stands for Memphis Music Town, which I love that. And the idea is to put Memphis on the map in an even bigger way than it already is. So share the vision and the purpose, and then we'll dive into the programs.
Well, the fact that I was fortunate enough to get some unbelievable artists recording my songs over the years, the fact that I was also able to be at the forefront of the sampling processes when the music industry transitioned into sampling music, and I was unbelievably shocked at how much of my catalog was sampled by so many future artists, Will Smith and Mariah Carey, Mary J, Kanye West, and Drake, and all of these people sampling my music. The first one to sample me was Notorious B.I.G. That was his audition tape, and then I had a hit record with me singing on one of his records. And so it just the fact that this happened for a kid out of Memphis, Tennessee, who had ambitions to be in the music business, who was so fortunate to have been motivated and encouraged by his community. I sang at Rose Hill Baptist Church on a street called Virginia Street. Maurice White lived 4 doors from me. He became the creator of a group called Earth, Wind, and Fire. He and I were very close. We went to grammar school together. We went to high school, Booker T. Washington High School together. All these things came together for me to have the career that I've had through music, and to being able to give something back in a meaningful way. I just felt it was an obligation.
So talk about the programs, because you have the SoulRight Music Mentorship Program. Let's start with that one. Describe that program.
Well, there are 4 sessions that happen during the course of the year. We can have up to 25 young people who are ambitious about being serious about the music business, who are interested in learning how to be successful songwriters or producers or even recording artists. And we have a structured process that we give them not only the insight of these legends, but also a process in a structured way to give them tools that we've used, we being the guys of mine, Isaac and I, and Maurice White and others. Look at the process of how we use what we did, not to make them try to duplicate us, but use that energy to have that as an add-on to what their potentials are. Because in order to get into the program, you have to show that you're serious about wanting to do this and that you're passionate about it. And if you are that, then we push you with the process in those disciplines, songwriting, producers, and recording, that you have to do independent studies. You have to show us in the course of the 6 weeks that you're there and that you're growing from that. And from that, we take young people and if they qualify, we put them in another aspect of our program called Emerging Stars Network. And we take those kids and we give them access to 4 recording suites where they're able to record their music. We have a stage area where they're able to rehearse their staging presentation with lights, the whole 9 yards. We have mirrors where they're able to work through their routines, their animation, and those kind of qualities, and really learn how to be competitive in a meaningful way in a competitive industry such as the music industry. So all those components are given to them free, and it's no charge to them at all. And then they take their works when they do their studies at the meaningful quality sounds that they get, and they're able to go and make relationships with record companies, production companies, and the like, and be sure that there's an energy that they believe in the same community for the next generation. So that was the process. And getting Stevie Wonder to talk about how he wrote Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, and what his processes were involved in recording what he would do is just so tremendous. Having Maurice White talking about what motivated him to come up to the individuality of an Earth, Wind, and Fire, and what are some of the tools that he used for those purposes. So we use all that information to give to young people freely in a meaningful way.
And I love when you talk about just that, you're knocking down the barriers. So you're making it where you really can't help and enabling them to go and really focus on the craft, the staging, everything like you're mentioning. And there's a ripple effect that will come back for our community. We'll talk about it in just a second in terms of the power for all of us. But dive in, because even within that illustration, I think you covered a lot of bandwidth that's really important to understand is, one, the craft of songwriting and understanding how to write a hook and, get an audience to engage within the song and make that part something that people want to listen to over and over and over again. So there's an art form there. Then there's another art form of going into the studio, and you can take a song and, on the production side, take it in 1,000 different directions. And so understanding the production and understanding, your sound and your who you are as a brand. And then the staging when they go and perform. That's a whole nother aspect, is being on stage and being able to have the charisma and the stage presence. And so give us maybe one or two of just, when you talk about the industry as a business like that, give us maybe one or two things that stand out to you as kind of aha moments, just like you said, when you froze that first time, and then after that, you realized, okay, I need to do this. What's an aha moment when you talk about the business of the music industry that you want everyone to know in terms of just some of those nuances that really do separate those who are trying versus those who are successful?
The cornerstone of what I say to young people, we have an orientation before the processes start. And this is the aha moment for them, because during the course of the orientation, I do the orientation. And this is what I say to them. There are no new emotions. You just call them different things, but there are no new ones. You have to find fresh ways to speak about common emotions. And if you are able to do that in a fresher way, you have the opportunity to have a hit record. What does that mean? There are so many different meanings in the word love. You have to learn how to be animated in a way that communicates the aura of what you're talking about, the aura of the ideas as you converse those, as you find this fresh concept of what is emotionally potentially connecting to an audience during your period of time. Everyone has their period. I've had mine. I'm in another period. It is yours now. And understand that when you hear people talking to you about processes, it's not that you've invented some new wheel. There are no new ones in an emotional way. You just have to understand how to make the way you communicate it impactful in a meaningful way during the course of your time.
What's one other thing, carry that forward, one other thing that you on the business side, and this can be even just owning your own music and publishing and everything else, that you wish you would have known earlier in your career? So what's one other thing that kind of ties to that orientation that you say, I wish I would have known this earlier?
Well, one of the things that's an intricate part of my program is we have a program inside we have two facilities. One is on Front Street in Memphis, and one is on Main Street, Memphis, Main Street. And at the Talent Development Complex, we have a program called Constant Attention. And what we do is we get into the intricacies of understanding how to own your properties, how to own your songs, and what those processes are that enables you to do that. And a lot of young folks think that they write a song and it's just a song. Well, there are two components to a song. There's the publishing aspect and there's the creative aspect. When you understand that those are opportunities for someone to take something from you, if you don't know how to take a position that protects you with that, then you'll do something and the next thing you know, you're the writer of it and someone else owns the publishing. So we go through that part of helping you understand processes that help you protect your interests in meaningful ways. It doesn't consume you so much to the extent that you can't do the creative process, but knowing what those things are helps you to select the right people that you may decide who you'd want to help you in that regard. But nevertheless, you're going to know what those areas are. And that's what we stress very meaningful in our talent development conference, which is free to them.
So this is one of those, you and I could go on and on forever, but let's talk about the power of the ripple effect of what you're doing and the benefit for Memphis and the Mid-South community. Carry it forward because, just like we've seen with the big names, it puts a spotlight on Memphis in a powerful way. So there's that one piece of it. Then there's tourism and there's interest in all these things globally that then is for Memphis. So I think that's one ripple effect. But talk about the benefit of what you're doing for our larger community.
Well, when you consider the power and success that Stax Records had, and you consider the diversity that's also out of Memphis, when you consider what Elvis Presley did, what Jerry Lee did, when you understand what B.B. King did, and you understand the marketing value, that just the marketing value of those templates that were set for Memphis, it means so much in an economical, beneficial way to a community that can grow further if you perfect the traits of those qualities that can help you become exceptional. So the being able to be a part of a community in a growing way through a gift that you may have is one of the greatest kind of compliments you could ever live through. And then having the opportunity to get the processes of those things that help you create even a greater value to tourism, to a greater value to diversified businesses. So if you have success through music, you can become diversified in other things. help you to create a value to life that can enable you to want to live a legacy through someone else years and years from now. So it speaks to building a life that means meaningful long-term. The value of why you've lived comes through what you're able to do while you're living. And so this is what this opportunity through those who have aspiration to do music can afford you. And it certainly affords you to be diversified, but it can be the template that starts the ball rolling for that diversified areas that you may look at later.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up, because musicians and artists, they're entrepreneurs. And when you talk about creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem, that's exactly what this is. And just like an entrepreneurial ecosystem will start attracting global talent to come to our city because they realize there's a process, a pipeline, a mentorship program that will create a lot of new opportunities just among this entrepreneurial ecosystem that, to your point, then creates new businesses outside of that. Talk about how we can help. So how can we help you?
Well, we have an organization in Memphis called the Community Foundation. You can go to the Community Foundation and look for in the nonprofit area, and you'll find the Consortium MMT, and you look and you can learn so much about what we're doing, how we're structured, what all of that means, and you can give to it. You also can just simply give to the Consortium MMT. It's the consortiummmt.org. You can go to the website and look at that and understand what we're doing and how we're going about doing it. And if you decide to support us, we would certainly appreciate that, because I want this to be something that lasts in a meaningful way. So part of how you can help is we're creating an endowment of $5 million that goes on way beyond David Porter. We've recorded the presentation of this program where it can go virtual without any presence of any individuals inside of the facility. We've got that template already set up. So this is something that can go on decades and decades and decades. We recorded all of the legends talking, Stevie Wonder talking. When the talents say something, when the artists say something to this group of people, every artist always says MMT, and then they talk about the point they're talking about. The reason that that's important, because all of these superstars made these videos specifically for this audience. It's never shown to anyone else. It's only given to them. So this program is a program that specifically is set up to be long-term for those who go through. So to have support for it to be long-term would be a tremendous asset to it.
You mentioned it already, but mention again the website, phone number, social media. Where do we go to learn more about the Consortium MMT?
The Consortium MMT, and the word "the" is an important part of it, is on all the platforms. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's on all of those. But you can go to the website, the consortiummmt.org, or info@theconsortiummmt.org, and look. There's a donate area for that. You can go to the Community Foundation. It is a powerful organization in the Memphis area that deals with giving support to different nonprofits throughout our community. And you'll see that we have a presence on that website that you also can learn so much more about who we are and why we are and what you can do to help. And so all of those platforms are there and available for people. And I always like to say this only because I feel so passionate about my giving. As an example, I don't receive any money for it. I've never received it. I started with my own money, and I want to see it last long, long way beyond me. And so those platforms are available for people to participate in.
Well, David Porter, love everything you're doing. Love your heart for giving back and making a difference, and greatly appreciate you being a part of the show. So thank you very much.
Chairman, I appreciate you so much and love everything that you do with your show.